I also know that some guy named Musk, I'm not sure, has said that he believes that the future of war will be drones. Now I think he was talking about the kinds that fly around, but maybe he was also counting in that drones that are human drones. He could have been talking about tanks,
Cars, yeah.
cars, submarines, um, ships, all kinds of drones out there right now. And so today, what we're going to talk about is the future of war. Brian, I turn it over to you.
Okay. Okay. So for people who don't closely track the Ukraine-Russia war, they are using pretty much most of the modern weapons that we have. They're both industrialized powers. Russia, long considered top leading military power, and then Ukraine, is basically the younger brother kind of thing. It's a smaller younger brother. They're like 40 million people instead of 140. They were part of the USSR, Soviet Union together, although apparently Ukraine, never wanted to be part of that, but they were. So they've now been fighting for over for 2 years in the intense war phase, and they were already fighting for 7 years, 2014 to 2021, in Crimea. A small thing, and I'll discuss a bit more of that because that is relevant how that works out. But one of the things that's made news is that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said that they would make 1 million drones, and that would be a huge deal for 2024. But people not paying detailed attention wouldn't know how many drones were being used in 2023 and 2022, and how many drones the Russians have. So this has a bit of a picture here where we see on the right a Russian stack of drones, small, what they call first-person viewer drones, and then we have all the Ukrainian drones. So yes, people who only see the Ukrainian drone pictures think, oh, look, so many drones the Ukrainians have, and don't know that the Russians have actually more. So the Ukrainians having 1 million drones is going against 5 million Russian drones. And then we'll say the numbers and how they're being used. You can see the drone in the corner here, the bottom corner. So it's a regular drone, like similar to many that people see, maybe about $1,000, $400 drone. And below that is a grenade or a mortar or some sort of explosive stuck to it. So then the drone flies over into the kamikaze thing and blows up with the drone, or in theory, you can just release it to blow up. And there are videos all over YouTube and other places showing, drones being used to drop onto soldiers and trenches.
And tanks and ships.
And tanks and ships. And tanks
Yes.
and ships. Yes. So then the future of war and drones is a lot of this drone versus anti-drone thing. Again, another drone with, taped on grenade. And then you have these jammers. So they're trying to stop the drones because each side knows, hey, I don't want to get killed by your drone. I'm trying to jam these drones and take them out. So it's shooting them down is one thing, but it's kind of difficult. But it's like, if I'm shooting the the target, where they pretend it's a duck, you have a spinning disc,
Yeah.
and you have that thing, and people have to shoot that. It's like difficult, right? I have to use a shotgun or something like that to try and hit the thing, and they have to see it, right? So it'd be tough to see these things because they're moving at a certain speed. Although they're moving not as fast as a mortar or an artillery shell,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those things move faster. So the tip of that thing, the explosive, is the rocket propelled grenade, right? A rocket propelled grenade has been around for, 60 years, 65 years. And even before that, you have bazookas and other things from World War II, similar things. And these things are not cheap, like $400. You see them all over the Middle East and all those wars. You always see some, you know, uh, Middle Eastern, Syrian, Palestinian got the little RPG, fires it and stuff. And so these things are dangerous, but they're like common, not a change to have it. And they have a range where they can shoot as far as almost half a mile, about half a
Okay.
mile,
Mm.
right? But then your accuracy goes down, right? I can shoot it, but the project. That's why the drones can be better because they can have more accuracy. I can fly it right to where I want to go. Common ranges for drones, the smaller ones, 250 meters. A lot of them go to 3 kilometers. The toy drones that are cheap, $100 ones, 50 to 100 meters. Tough to fly at the length of a football field. And then the FPV drones, first person viewer drones, can fly up to 8 to 10 kilometers, which is about like 4 to 6 miles. But this is like no wind, all the right conditions. And it's assuming that you're not being shot at while you're trying to fly this thing, right? And I'll say that you are being shot at.
Yes.
But here you have an artillery thing that got hit by one of the drones and got damaged, like you're saying. So mortars, artillery, and grenades have been used since World War I. As of November 23, Ukraine was using about 240,000 artillery shells per month, and they're trying to get 1.5 million artillery shells. So this is older tech, not drone tech, but these big, like that weapon we just saw, firing, 20 miles or something like that, big honking shells that can, totally take out tanks and everything else. So again, but it's two sides that shooting each other. And I don't have 1.5 million shells lying around, right?
Mm-hmm.
I make 6,000 to 8,000 per day. I'm using it same day, same week. Right. I'm getting that. And then Russia again had 3 times as many, 20,000 per day. Right. So just like pounding each other. And then mortars, again, that you see on the right, again, looks not dissimilar to the grenade, right? But it have fins on it. So they can fire up to like 6 miles or something like that. And they have, different sizes of explosions. And then they get to a height of about, like half a mile or something, right? So the mortars and the drones do the same kind of function, roughly the same kind of size of explosive. I mean, stick a mortar onto a drone, right? Yeah. And then fly it over to where I want it to go.
Right.
The U.S. has precision artillery and also has precision howitzers and other things like that. So getting accuracy on my firing is not new. We're doing that already. But this is potentially a cheaper way to do it. And then the ranges are such. So I'm putting in the context of having drones, a lot of them, that can hit things within 3 miles is not a new capability. I could hit you from 3 miles away, right? But it's increasing the effectiveness of these things. It matters that way, right? But it's another way to kill you in the war.
So Brian, I may be jumping the gun because I haven't seen this set yet. So I'm sorry if I'm running ahead here. Yeah. But the 2 things that I always think of in terms of drones is the ability to go inside a building. You can move around buildings, or you can change your mind on the way as long as you're still radio operated and not pre-programmed. And then the second thing is the idea of swarming. That's the thing that's always kind of frightened me as a potential participant in a field of war would be the idea of being swarmed. I'm sorry, I just thought of a third thing, and that is a lot of times they're using these as scouts. So they're not arming them, or even if they're armed, they're sending them out to scout locations in order to then shoot the artillery more accurately at what they're trying to shoot. So those would be 3 things that would have pretty significant advantages over these existing kinds of capabilities.
Right. So, for artillery, I need a spotter. So whether it's another drone, like you said, or a plane, or a pilot, or a commando, someone calling forward, satellite, I need a spotter. In World War II, you can imagine the World War II movie where the guy is radio in, or like the Vietnam thing, calling in strike on sector 2A, fire on my location, fire for effect. That's the same thing, right? So that was a method that they did. Here I have the camera, so the guy who's operating it is seeing what he's seeing. So it's combined the camera with the means of delivering the thing, right? But then I can also have guided missiles and other things that have the camera, but it is bringing it to a new price point.
Yes,
the volume and price point is different in terms of the swarming effect, and then the building. In a real big war, like Ukraine versus Russia, the artillery is destroying the building. I don't have to fly around the building. I'm blowing up the building. So, and that's the shooting 20,000 artillery shells per day means I'm blowing up 5,000 buildings per day if the buildings were still standing. But now I'm fighting in rubble, right? I'm fighting in rubble is what I'm doing, and I'm trying to kill you guys. And we'll discuss the situation that they're in terms of like what the soldiers are doing. So, so we're getting to this, 2,000, 1,700 drones per day in late 2023. The new number would mean that we get up to about 3,000 per day. So still less than the 8,000 per day that Russia was already at. So again, it's like these things aren't lying around. You're using them up. And they're being destroyed at an incredible pace. Artillery is still about 3 to 4 times more, at least 2 to 3 times more than what the drones are. But you can increase it, it's a trade-off. Do I make more artillery shells? Do I make more drones, explosives? Both things will kill you. And then again, the ranges, artillery has more range. US is looking at really long range stuff, even like 1,000 miles. And they have stuff that's really accurate too. So they have precision fire version of that, because the US has been transitioning over a few decades to get more and more accuracy on these things. And then the current systems up to 200 miles. So again, more than the range of a smaller drone. There are larger drones, and people are making more of those. But it's like, instead of 1 million drones, I make 1,000 big drones, because the big drones still cost more. I got to stick an engine in it. Maybe it's like a mini Cessna, right? A Cessna costs $200,000, right? So again, it's all this cost benefit of how much features do I get for how much cost.
Right.
So we're in the second year of the major part of, entering the third year of the major part of the Ukraine-Russia war. The last year, not much land was exchanged, right? You see the red part that Russia took, the blue part that Ukraine took. So basically like 200 square miles. I take 200 square miles over here, you take 200 square miles over there, and then we expended about 3,000 lives per square mile to get it, right? So they're killing each other at a horrendous rate, right? So initially, when Russia went big out of Crimea, so they took Crimea, which was something off the map here, they took 16,000 square miles of stuff for Crimea, right? Then in the big push, they take 46,000 square miles, in 2021, or 2022, and then Ukraine got back 29,000 square miles in 2022, right? Because they Russia kind of like overextended, and then Ukraine got more troops, outnumbered them, got a bunch of weapons from the United States and UK and Germany, and then was able to push them back, collapse them, along the eastern side of the country, and they got something back. But Russia still netted out about 30,000, some 35,000, 40,000 square miles of it. But that was before the defenses got set. So now things have been relatively stable for a year, but both sides have added more soldiers. So you had attrition rate of like 150,000, 100,000 per year dead, and then 100,000 so injured. But going deeper into what's going on in the detailed look of like what's happening around this front line, right? Front line that's like a few hundred miles, 1,000 miles across, right? Is that when you zoom in close to one of the areas around one of the cities that they're fighting over, you can see all these little red triangles, right?
Yep.
So that's in the description, Russian field fortifications, right? So if Russian soldiers aren't that well trained, because I brought a bunch of new guys up, right? And also the new guys from Ukraine, I have those guys not fight up front because they're not really that good yet. I had them dig trenches all over. I lay minefields all over. So now that entire area, the bottom half of Ukraine, the part that Russia holds, and then 100 miles or so into Ukraine, is all trenched up, all minefields, right? So then if I push through, I broke through your line, right? You punch your guys, then you retreat to the next set of trenches, right? And then I go behind a minefield, and then you're slowed up because you have to go through trenches, fortifications, and other stuff like that, right? So that's why not much is happening, because no matter how much better I overwhelm you with a bunch of drones and something, I attack your trucks and do some stuff. You take out some gear, you kill some people, but the minefield's still there.
Right.
The other soldiers and stuff, right? So World War III is a lot like World War One.
We've come a long way in 100 years, huh?
Right, right. And this was a situation in Crimea, right? Russia goes in 2014, Ukraine caught off guard, and then they take Crimea, then they start fighting over it, right? Over the part that they haven't gotten yet. And then it fell into a lot of trench fortifications in Crimea. So for 6-7 years, it was at a stalemate. So they have these kind of trenches and stuff here. And then they had these bigger, deeper, I don't have to like squat down. I can stand because I had like years to make a bigger trench. I got more bags. I got this netting above it. What's that netting for? That's when you haven't got the drone or anything else flying overhead. They see a bunch of camouflage stuff. They can't see if the soldier's there, right? So, and then I've got cover over top of it. So that if the drone hits it, it hits, a yard of dirt, 3 feet of dirt.
Yeah.
A grenade on top of dirt, nothing happens, right? So this is, the stalemate. 2014 to enter, 6-7 year stalemate. It was 20 times smaller, like, 7,000 dead, and you have 20,000 troops either side. Now you like got 500 troops on each side, right? You scaled it up. Crimea was the pilot phase of the bigger war.
Yeah.
Right? Where I said, let me do a test campaign.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I got a stalemate for 6-7 years. I didn't go big enough. I didn't go big enough. So then they went bigger. Putin says, okay, I'm going to go bigger, whatever reasons, right? And so they went bigger. I had drones and other stuff. I just need more. I ended up with I guess stalemate again. I'm shocked that this has happened.
So overall, this seems to be a really, really, really bad plan for the Russians. And I happen to be one who would wish that there is no war. But overall, it would seem like the neocons in America might be right on this. And I'm not a neocon. And in fact, I kind of don't like the neocons, but they might be right that the United States is getting to test all of their equipment at the expense of Russian and Ukrainian lives. They're getting to test their equipment, come up with new equipment for a land war, diminish Russia's capability, even though Russia would be improving their capabilities. But at the same time, they don't have the kind of dough to be putting into this situation like the combination of the NATO allies do. So there might be some real advantages to America in this prolonged war in the Ukraine.
So my analysis of this is that Russia was never a match, truly peer competitor to the United States and its allies.
Yeah.
The Russian economy is, $1.5, $2 trillion versus the US at 20 trillion, 25 trillion, and then with its allies, 40 trillion.
Right.
Right. And that Russia is basically Saudi Arabia with nukes.
Yeah.
That they have oil and gas and not much else. Right. So they were never a threat. And then this, after 6 months or a year, when things stabilized, was basically, all the situation, like going to the stalemate phase is there a reason for the United States to give $100 billion worth of gear to the Ukrainians, right? Just to further weaken Russia. We already know they're weak, right? This has shown that they're weak, right? Weak relative to the United States.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then this thing is just meat grinding more Ukrainian and Russian lives, right? The fact that you utterly collapse Russia, it goes to what's the point, right? Because, if you get them so that they can't support themselves, right? Then, you got to go pay money to support them.
Yeah,
Right? 'Cause
right.
you're not going to leave it, because if you leave it as a mess, then you have a terrorist breeding ground.
Right.
Just like you had,
Right.
the Chechen terrorists and stuff like
Right.
that. You have Russian terrorists because they got nothing to lose. You
Right.
got to give them something to not lose, right? And then it goes to, like their security and other things, but it's on a practical basis. This thing is stalemated. It will stay stalemated. You're saying if you want to continue down that road of $100 billion, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you'll find out, when does attrition reach the breaking point? Just like I run World War I,
Yeah.
I'm losing 2 million, 5 million people
Yeah.
per year. And then eventually, even though the lines didn't move,
Right.
Russia fell out, Germany ran out of troops and money. You run out your economy.
Right. Right.
Right. So yeah, we can do that too. Run out the economy at the cost of 500,000, 1 million lives
Right.
killed per year.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that is unnecessary, and also unnecessary to say, oh, the U.S. is more secure by stomping on Russia. This has shown that we can do that anytime we want it.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
So they're not, them being 10% of the United States or 5%.
Is not a big yeah. Right.
Are you pushing all the way to take them to zero? Like, why?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the other modern war, significant modern war, is Israel versus Gaza. So and versus Palestinians. So it's about 142 square miles, about 3 times the size of the core part of the San Francisco as a city, not the San Francisco Bay Area, but San Francisco as a city itself. So 800,000 people in San Francisco, 2.5 million people here in Gaza, and it's about 3 times the size of San Francisco for people who know San Francisco and stuff like that. And they have lost about 200 some soldiers. Israel's lost 200 some soldiers, take about 80 square miles. So roughly in the range of like 20 to 30 killed per square mile taken. But that is with a force that is technologically, training-wise, superior weapons with air superiority.
Right.
In the Ukraine-Russian case, they have air, but because of anti-air missiles,
right,
they have not been able to be effective. Here, Israel's Air Force is totally effective.
Yeah.
Its drones are totally effective. There is no counter air. So the drone part is kind of like low, close contact air. You can think of it as close contact air, because you have, like more distant air, bombers and stuff like that. And then you have a close contact air. So the drones militarily are close contact air. So it's part of air superiority, right? It's just a closer, cheaper version of it, right? But I have, bigger air superiority. So it goes to the fact that if you're equal and you do not have air and drone superiority, then your deaths will be, 30 to 300 versus 3,000 for someone who's dug in.
Right.
And here they were dug in too, right? They got tunnels
right,
and all that kind of stuff, right? And preparing for a decade, right? So that goes to what military defenses are. That, again, it's like, there's swords and there's armor. It's like, what am I going up against? It's not like I just do this and you do nothing. Well, then, of course, then you're defenseless. I mounted you and I just pummel you, right? I can pummel you with a brick. I don't need to pummel you with a drone or something like that. Right? So anyway, so it goes to this kind of range of like, I can get a closer to bloodless war for the superior force if you totally outclass your opponent, like Israel outclasses Gaza, and there's a small area. If the bigger area and the other guy has preparation, then it doesn't work.
Right. Okay.
And then we're going to start a war in the United States with Iran and its forces. That's going to start soon, right? Based on the timing you watch this thing, we're now in January 30th. 2 days ago, an Iranian militia likely had a drone that hit a U.S. base. They thought it was a U.S. drone, and they had cost 3 U.S. dead and 30 plus severely injured, had to be airlifted away. And this is going to cause a response where the U.S. will get involved and fight about 200,000 irregular different militias in Syria and Yemen, and possibly some in Iraq as well. So a significant major war is likely going to be starting up shortly, involving drones, involving the U.S.'s Air Force and Navy and Marines.
Yeah, this would be a completely different war in that there'd be probably no boots on the ground from the U.S. or from the NATO, or very few special forces or something, not mass numbers of tanks or infantry landing anywhere. Is that your guess?
Can't say.
Don't know.
I would say maybe, but if I have 80,000 guys in Syria, I got 120,000 guys in Yemen. That's 5 times as many of the 40,000 people, 40,000 main soldiers in Hamas and Gaza.
Yeah.
So just doing airstrikes and stuff, I don't think it cuts it if they want to do that. So I think you'll end up having boots on the ground. But you can choose not to do that. You can try and do just an air campaign. But if you have military objectives of I'm going to neutralize these guys and then make the Persian Gulf, which is the commerce is disrupted, safe, I think you need boots on the ground to do it. Like you can't do it just with a lot of drones and a lot of air power.
Okay.
So then in Hamas, like I was saying, they have tunnels where they've done like 300 miles of that, even though they didn't have that much funds to do that. But in the tunnels required Israeli soldiers to go in. They have weapons like I've heard of sponge bombs, where some material fills up the tunnel, expands out and blocks it off. And they have other weapons and they, explosives. They also use water to flood the tunnels. But the tunnels themselves, unless you get in there, your drone flying overhead can't get through the entrance.
Right.
Can't do anything.
Right.
Iran had their nuclear program. They have a lot of underground facilities deep into hard granite rock, and they have super cement to protect these facilities. This is their nuclear program, which, if it was exposed, would be easy for Israel or the United States to destroy, which was what happened to Iraq. Saddam Hussein, back in the 1980s, I believe, had a nuclear program, and they had a reactor, and Israel blew up the reactor, right? So if you had your facility above ground, it gets destroyed, right? So only the underground facility is not destroyed, because you can just reach out and take it out.
Do we know? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So because of this, the U.S. has made this super bunker buster bomb, and Iran has made super concrete to protect their facilities. And then, so you have this bomb versus concrete race. So there's this material called function graded cementous composite. So it's got layers of stuff. So the regular ultra hard concrete, this thing can take 30,000, maybe even 40,000 commercially. And then military grade is 60,000 to 100,000 PSI, pounds per square inch. And then there's this even more complex layer thing of like, a few inches up top is some anti-penetration layer and then an anti-cracking layer. So it makes it even more resistant to explosives. China has tested this thing, and basically, 1-ton bomb from an F-35 plane or, a smaller bomber, not the 20-ton bomb or 10-ton bomb from a B-2 bomber, where it's like everything is going into one bomb. I didn't do a bunch of small bombs. I did one bomb, and it's got Elgin steel on the front, so it's gonna crack through things, designed to penetrate and blow up deeper into the thing. So these bombers are slow. The B-52, these bombers are slow, but they carry heavy payload, right? Almost no one else has bombers that can carry 10 tons plus, 20 tons plus that you have in B-52 and stuff. So your four-engine B-52 bomber is, even though it's been around for 60 years, is still among the heavy payload things. Even China's bombers are like 4 times smaller. They're like a double-sized B-29, right? So this is something that other countries have not done. And if you have enough of this hard cement stuff, your regular bombs just blow up off of it. They don't even crack it. It's like that weak. This bomb thing can go through like 200 feet of what they call 5,000 psi cement.
Wow.
So the old Minuteman silos, right, from 1960s,
Right.
1950s, 2,000 psi,
Mm.
weaker cement than your regular cement that you have in your house now.
Wow.
So because the technology on cement and on hardened cement has increased a bunch, and that prevents things from penetrating. So if I have the protection, I can nearly bomb-proof things, or make it so it's really, really hard to crack it. So then this is tests around spalling. China is working on this stuff too, digging in and tunneling and stuff like that, where basically you do a bomb onto it and it's like barely doing anything to it. Like the penetration is like almost nothing. So then there was a bit of race, 2012, 2023, Pentagon spent $82 million. And then they got this super bunker buster, could crack through 8 meters of 10,000 PSI rock or concrete, but only 2 meters of the 30,000 PSI material. The 30,000 PSI material is just, now you can get that commercial. It's all over, right? So, and then Iran can get up to 60,000 PSI. And then they try to upgrade like 4 or 5 times. And so if I have the funds to protect it, I can protect it in a very big way. So like I said, the Minuteman silos were that. And you'd have to get a 250 kiloton warhead within about 230 meters to be sure that you broke the silo. The super hardened concrete for the Freedom Tower that replaced the World Trade Center, 150,000 cubic yards of super strong material in the 8,600 to 14,000 PSI range for this thing built around 2010 or so, right? And the upper floors had more materials. So this thing is like a 100-story tall bunker. Because they said, okay, you guys blew that other one up.
Yeah, try this.
Try this. We're making it even tougher to destroy, right? Because they know it's a target.
Yeah.
Okay, you built the last 2. Okay,
right.
Let's go.
Right.
So the pre-bagged ultra hard cement is about $2,000 per cubic yard. Because again, it's a cost-benefit analysis.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So and then they're talking about bringing the cost down to, so total cost $3,000 per yard. So 150,000 yards of that stuff, we're talking about like $500 million, $450 million on the cement portion. But the whole thing costs like $10 billion.
Yeah.
So, but the hardened cement stuff is not cheap. But the fact that I made 150,000 yards of it for this building,
and
I probably made it for Pentagon or other buildings, I made an industry that can make ultra hard cement at volume.
Yes.
Right? Because I got to have been for this. Now I got a $4 billion industry where all the tough buildings are using the tough material. And then they're researching, let me bring it down by 5 times in cost. Let me get down to $600 per yard. So normally cement is about like $100 per yard. So now instead of being 20, 30 times more expensive, now I'm down to 6, right? So then I can make it all over, right? And the overall strength of the materials was increasing. Remember the 2,000 PSI for 50 years, for 50 years ago, with the Minuteman silo, because they didn't go cheap on that, right? Because normal everyday cement might be 800 PSI, right? So that was, your crude mix of stuff. But now you toss in some additives, some steel shavings and stuff like that, and you got more. So then, and also the cost benefit analysis isn't that bad, because if it's stronger, I might need less of it.
Yeah.
Instead of 150,000 yards of the weak stuff, maybe only 50,000, maybe only like 10,000, right? So then yes, it's more expensive, 6 times more expensive, but maybe the cost will come to wash, maybe come to better, because it's stronger, I need less of it. So what about your billionaires, or your multimillionaires, right?
Yeah.
They're worried about World War III.
Right.
They're worried about the swarm of the drones, right? If I make a dome structure, half dome structure, that is naturally stronger. right? So if I make a 50 foot wide thing by 20 foot tall dome, right? Then I'm looking at a 5,000 square foot home, 3 stories tall or 2 stories tall, and I have some underground. Then for 30,000 to 120,000 bucks, or just the cement portion of it,
Hmm.
you know, I made the thing super strong.
Mm.
So if I want to harden my thing and have um, my safe room and bunkers, right? It doesn't take that much of the
Got it.
ultra hard cement. And then it goes to, like the grades of, 2000 up to 10,000 commercially available PSI strength
Right.
ratings. So
Right.
engineered concrete is over 10,000, but you can have like relatively ordinary stuff at 5,000, which is
Wow.
stronger than the Minuteman silo.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
at the
yeah.
grades of stuff, but I'm not using enough of it to be, silos, you know, a lot of that cement. So how about against nuclear bombs? So 1 megaton air burst, you can see that, okay, normal housing gets taken out, is threatened with light damage up to 11 miles. And
Hmm.
then out to 7 miles, it's things are really wrecked because at 2 PSI, that's like a 70-mile-per-hour wind, right? At 5 PSI, within 4 miles, it's a 103-mile wind. Well, they're basically hurricane levels. So if I make hurricane resistant homes
Hmm.
with better nails, better construction, and also some heat flame resistance, I can relatively affordably bring the damage radius down from 7 miles down to 4, and then even getting down to 294 miles. With the cement and stuff like that, I can bring it down to not even that much cement, bring it down to a 3 mile radius, right? So you could, if you were serious about civil defense,
Hmm. Hmm.
you could institute construction laws and then have this kind of stuff. They have this kind of construction anti-hurricane stuff,
Hmm.
which
Yes.
also happens to make it 10 times more resistant to nuclear
Hmm.
weapons on hospitals. All the hospitals, all the key facilities like Kaiser Hospital,
Hmm.
hurricane,
Right.
earthquake proof them,
Right.
right? So better construction can achieve that result. And then if I do the monolithic dome, I'm within a half-mile range of
Wow.
megaton thing,
Wow.
right? I can be on the edge of that, right? And be okay because I'm missile silo quality,
Hmm.
right? There's other stuff you have to go through the windows, blah blah blah. You'd have to have some blast shields,
Right.
blah.
Right.
But you have to go underground, maybe. But it's something where you can get serious about hardening things up.
It sounds,
Which, yeah,
it sounds a lot better than hiding under your desk.
yes, yes.
Did you have to really be old to remember that?
Yes, that was the old civil defense thing of hiding under the desk. Yeah. Basically, have comfort in something that's minimally protective. Yeah.
Right.
Taiwan has things underground. So here you see these driveways leading into what looks like a green punch of dirt.
Yeah.
That's under the green stuff is the air hangar with cement,
Yeah.
probably the strong cement, and then dug tunnels. They've been digging in for 70 years, waiting for Mao to make the attack that never came.
Yeah.
Their A bases have all these hardened bunkers and stuff. They're dug into the mountain. Taiwan is 60% mountain. And they have load the tunnels all throughout the Taipei city. Also, when I lived there for 8 months in 1995, I was driving from Taipei where I was working, for a weekend for a trip, and I got on a bus, and I saw going through, a tunnel going through a hill, that there were these side tunnels going 90 degrees into the mountain. That's stuff leading to the military and other bases.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're dug in all over. And then here's a picture of a Taiwanese plane. You can see the bunker is all cement.
Yeah.
Right. And this is inside a mountain. Just like you have Cheyenne Mountain
Sure.
here,
Sure.
which was for us old enough, back in the day, was NORAD NATO Command Center.
Right.
Within Cheyenne Mountain. It's still in, I think they moved it, but inside a hollow mountain.
Yeah.
Taiwan has 2 hollow mountains that they have bases in.
Mm.
And those were designed to, if you hit me with 7 big nukes, I'm still going.
I see. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, direct hit nukes. China's building more silos using hardened cement, increasing the number of silos. They're supposedly be fewer nukes than silos. Doing a thing of a whack-a-mole. Which silo is my nuke in?
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
So they have to hit more of it, and then you have to do a lot of direct hits, right? Because if I'm with new construction, tougher to destroy. So a lot of drones and robots, it becomes that economic infrastructure war. In World War II, we hit the refineries, we hit the rail yards, we hit the ammo depots, we hit the ball bearing plants. Ball bearing plants was the key thing, right? Because that was the key point of infrastructure.
Sure.
If I take out your ball bearing plants, you can't make the engines, you can't make your Panzers and
Right.
stuff. The old day version of that is, wrist guards and stuff like that. And the amount of armor I have is commensurate with, the use case of what I'm doing. So in World War III, I've hardened up, I've dug in, Iran's buried their nuclear capability into big underground things. I can't even hit it with these big bunker busters. It can't break through. But you haven't buried everything. You've only buried 0.001%.
Sure.
Right? I've only hardened that up. I hit where the armor is not.
Right.
I figure out what the vulnerable. So I break your supply chain. So in Iran's case, it'd be the ports. You got to bring in food, your refineries and stuff like that. And it goes to the castles and traps. So everything old, is the same principles. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the moat? What's the defenses? And what am I attack with? What's a siege machine? Right? You just work into the details of it. So that's the future of war. Is still more things change.
The more they stay the same.
The more they stay the same.
The more they stay the same. So interesting, Brian. We are living, even as we hear about these wars, we're living in the most peaceful time in human history in terms of the number of people that die in war. This last 100 years has been extremely peaceful in that regard. And so for most of us, we never think about war, but for those who love the sciences, there's a massive, massive amount of science around the war and the preparation for war. And that science commonly moves right into commercial, where we get to use the benefits of all of that preparation.
And one of the main points I want to make is that these things become economic, right? So there's no, before World War II, okay, if I take over another country, take over France or whatever, I can double up my economy.
Right.
If I just grow my economy, 5%, 10% per year, I've doubled in 8 years. And I don't have to keep conquered another people. Right. So there's no economic reason to do it anymore. Right. And then if there is the high likelihood of me versus the guy who's close to equal within 10, 10, right? Then I'm not getting anything by it, right? I'm going to spend it up. If I have to do a land invasion, I'm probably get bogged down. Only someone who's totally unprepared, no trenches, no tunnels, no whatever, right? Is going to be rolled over, right? So then if they're prepared, if they're dug in, if they're willing to fight, there is no conquering. There's only, if you're small enough, 50,000 guys, 100,000 guys, then my 2 million man army, my 500,000 man person army can crack you with advanced weapons, right? That the limit of that is roughly Gaza or 5-10x Gaza, right? So, so it's what am I hoping to achieve? I need to factor in this stuff. I can, with US tech, outclass someone and take them out.
Right.
But again, for what purpose?
Right. What's the goal? Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very interesting. And so for those of you who are new and you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. Hit the like button too. That'd be great. And we will continue to put these out about once a week, although it looks like our run rate's popping up just a little bit right now. And Brian, until next time, it's been great listening to all of this interesting stuff about war.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And we'll see you guys next time.